order. Welcome everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is ES and you are tuned in live to the University of ES channel. Today we have a special guest. His name is Chief Yuya. And if you don't know about him, you're gonna find out tonight. How you doing? Welcome. Look at you guys already in the chat room. Welcome. Welcome. So before we begin, let me greet the people. Welcome, Monique. Welcome. Welcome, Patricia. Welcome, Austin. Hey, check it out later on as we proceed with this live feed. Feel free to call in, but when he's ready, okay? So don't call in just yet, and I'll let you know where that number is. All right, welcome. Welcome, everybody. We have Chief Yuya in the building. If you don't know who he is, you're going to learn tonight. Chief Yuya, welcome, is the founder of the Anu Life Global Ministry. You can find all of his information right here in the description link, okay? He hosts numerous shows on the broadcast network. I'm gonna ignore y'all right now. Enlightenment and Transformation, which can be found on YouTube, youtube.com, Enlightenment and Transformation TV, right here on YouTube. He is the leading priest of the Anu Life Global Ministries, Anu Nation and Elder in the Yoruba-born tradition of, is it Ifa or Ifa?
Ifa.
Ifa Life Global Ministries. Anu Nation, wait, hold on. Yeah, Anu Nation and Elder in the Yoruba-born tradition of Ifa Orisha. Chief Yuya has initiated, I don't want to pronounce it, numerous students into Orisha tradition as well as his own Anu spiritual order in the North American diaspora and his African homeland. Welcome. Chief, he provides concrete solutions to psychological, spiritual, cultural, and familial challenges that are fitting and deeply penetrating. Many of these hands-on supported solutions can be found in his literary works. Literary works, for those of you that still like to read, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. That's one of his books. And the next one is Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships. And the next one is Shrine and Altar. And his next book is titled Mind, Heart, Words. He has also produced countless instructional videos. Chief currently teaches indigenous occult mystery systems, African philosophy, spiritual sciences, and divination to adults as well as children through his online school, the Sadulu House Spiritual Center, and promotes 2 NGOs, oh wow, in West Africa, which provides technology and aid to underserved populations, primarily in Nigeria and Ghana. With 25 years of serving the spiritual indigenous community, Chief Yuya pulls from exhaustive springs of deep wisdom and ancient principles to provide the bonding points for those looking to reclaim their spiritual authority and reconnect with their life-affirming traditions. Welcome, Chief Yuya. How you doing?
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for coming in. Hey, check this out. We're gonna relax it a little bit. You guys, I found him. I think I was finishing up with my own live stream or something, and I was just scrolling on YouTube, and I was like, who's this? Like, your feed hadn't even started, but I felt the energy. I felt it. And I said, let me wait. And it took maybe about 2 minutes. And you went live, and I was like, wow. And I hadn't even read your resume. I didn't know anything about you. But once you went on with your feed and you introduced this upcoming documentary, All Whores Go to Heaven, that's what stopped me really right there. It was the title. I was like, wait, hold up. Not saying that I'm a whore or anything, but it was something intriguing about it where I knew it was deep. I knew it was something a little bit deeper than the surface. And you definitely displayed that in your live feed. So yes, welcome to the channel. So before we get deep off into this documentary, which I'm sure many people are quite interested in it, I actually want to know a little bit about your background with regards to the Orisha, your position as a Yoruba priest, right?
Sure.
How long, let me turn this music down a bit. How long have you been a priest, and how did you become involved in that?
Okay, sure. So in terms of the priesthood, I have other initiations prior to my first Orisha initiation, which was an initiation to Ogun, which is a deity of basically of acid. It's an acidic force where it's basically the energy that breaks things down in the universe. Some people call that militancy, or warfare, or metallurgy. So that was really kind of my entrance into the world of Orisha. But that was around like 97 when I first started really studying Orisha and making trips and things like that. But prior to that, I was dealing with other systems that I was also initiated in and ordained in. And then after my Ogun initiation, I was initiated into Ifa, which is it's the corpus or the auditory stream coming from the supreme consciousness, in which we call Oludumare. And there are certain people who are called to be able to recite and recall and interpret that stream of consciousness. And they're part of a priesthood of an energy that we call Orumila. And in some sense systems, he's called Tahuti, and some he's called Moses, but essentially it's the lawbringer. So those who fall under that priesthood would be, and who are initiated fully, would be called Babalao, which is what I am. But, I don't really get off into the titles too much because it's about the work.
I heard you say that in your feed, like you weren't, and I could feel that. Like here we have this humble person who has probably learned so much, but yet he doesn't need a title to define his walk. So that's why I knew I had to have you on, because I could identify with that.
Oh, give thanks.
Now, the thing about it is, how do you feel about maybe perhaps some misconceptions out there that people have of you being in that position, but yet you've presented this new idea, this new concept for this upcoming documentary that you will be sharing with the world, and that you're looking for support with? Do you feel that there's any misconceptions or maybe some misunderstandings with regards to all whores go to heaven, which I would love for you to kind of break it down as to what this really means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I gestate within a pool of misconception as a melanoid man. I'm misconceived, misinterpreted and misrepresented. So I'm used to that. So it doesn't really knock me off my square or cause me to hesitate, because I'm concerned that people may not understand. Part of the oath and the commitment that I took in the world was to bring understanding. So as it relates to like the documentary or anything that we do, people have a certain ideation when it comes to priests. And a lot of that just comes from Catholicism. A lot of it comes from media and movies, and a whole lot of it comes from their unwillingness to be accountable for their own walk in life. So they look at the priest or the priestess to be this this figure that they can create, because it's very similar to what people do with what they call God. Instead of really listening to how your supreme intelligence is representing itself, we prefer to name it. Because once you name something, you can define it, and definition is boundaries. So now that I've defined God, I've limited God, but I've limited it based on my finite understanding. So It's the same thing with me. It's the same thing with you or anyone who's taken on the responsibility to teach people. As soon as people encounter you, instead of kind of going for the ride and opening themselves up to the possible transformation, they'll immediately say, well, you're a priest. You're supposed to be maybe softer. You're not supposed to have so much testosterone. Why is your voice so punchy? You know, where's the incense? You got on shoes. You should be barefoot.
Right.
And the reality is, the supreme intelligence is evolving, and it's expressing itself through many different forms because it has many questions of itself. The supreme intelligence is a child; it's a baby. So it's saying, what would I look like as a big bald head guy who's also a priest, who also has maybe a certain kind of background and certain affiliations, so forth. And then what would I look as this type of guy, that type of guy, and what would my life experience be like? So when we limit and try to crystallize that perception based on our inability to understand that the Most High is truth, and truth is changing. Truth is never static; it's dynamic. Then it's always going to become a problem for people. But I don't limit myself to a feeling of trying to accommodate people's ignorance. My job is to cut through and teach, and if you like it, cool. If not, that's cool
And
too.
how long have you had this confidence in yourself? Because I know that it takes a while to really get a grasp on who you are, without the titles, without the labels, especially during this time. How long did it take you before you knew, like, yeah, this is me and this is what I'm going with?
I was pretty much born with it. I was a very shy child, and as a result, I pretty much never spoke. I observed a lot, and when you're very shy and you don't speak, sometimes people kind of forget you a little bit, and it gives you an opportunity to objectively look at things without coming under the same social architectural programming as everyone else. But we're all born with certain gifts, and one of the gifts that I was born with was a F the world mentality. So I always had an innate sense of integrity. And even if the world didn't want to get with it, I was willing to throw up a middle finger and say, well, I'm going to do it because it needs to be done. And kind of just used to moving in isolation, moving alone. I was left alone a lot, not supported a lot, So when that happens, you tend to pull from the unseen forces around you because you know that they're a little bit more consistent, maybe than those who are right in front of you in corporeal form. So that creates once you have doubt only sets in when you don't feel the presence of your ancestors. As soon as you don't feel the presence of your ancestors, you feel alone. And then as soon as you feel alone, ego steps in and says it's just I. So once ego steps in, it feeds from doubt and fear. So as long as you're feeling that interconnectedness with your ancestral lineage, you'll never feel doubt because it's like my team is with me, my squad is here. Like, what?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to clarify something really quick for some in the chat room. Maybe some people came in and did not get the memo as far as, I know we don't like the titles or whatever, but please clarify your title with regards to the spiritual system that you do practice. Please.
I'm a Babalao in the Ifa system.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who would they call me? What do they think I was? A deacon?
Someone brought up something regarding Catholicism, so I was just like, hold on a second. Wrong child. All right, Chief Yuya, let's get it in. Tell me, let's talk about this documentary. All whores go to heaven. That stopped me because I knew it was deep. I knew it was deeper. I knew it was. Who are the whores, and where is this heaven? What are we talking about here? What is this going to be all about? I'm so excited because I know you're going to bring it.
Okay, sure. Whores are women who are committed. First of all, whore is a woman. So that's number one. You can't be a man and be a whore. A lot of times we may throw that term around because we tend to ascribe the idea of whorism just to sexual promiscuity. And like I said in one of the promos, the best whores don't even have sex for money. So the best whores have been shaped and cultivated so much by the light of a progressive and free man that just their very presence requires tribute. So a whore is a woman who's totally committed herself to being filled with light. to totally sustaining and upholding the light. When we go back to earlier ideas of horism, in horror, of course, you hear the word Horus in there, or the name, more so the title, Horus, which is its earlier root, just like the word hour. In earlier times, they were called women of the hour, because in the temples of Het-Heru, they would maintain the clock and hour by playing the sistrum, which is an instrument that's very similar to what we would call like the tambourine. But they would play that instrument 24/7 as a part of tribute. So they would call women of the hour. And that later became Horus. But the Hor and the Horus originally being Heru, means light or heaven or that which is above, right? So when we look at a whore is one who's lusty, and lust, it's the same thing as the word luster. It means to shine. So a whore is a shiny one, very similar to like Osumare in our Yoruba tradition, the rainbow serpent. Osu means moon, but it also means dazzling. So it's the dazzling serpent. Like Tupac's middle name. Tupac's middle name was Amaru. Amaru also means, serpent or shining serpent. So that Mare, Oludumare, Osumare, Amaru, it represents that shining or that dazzleness or that luster that one could have that makes them more appealing, because we all want light. Light represents that knowledge, or what we say in some circles, gain, or wisdom. And the whores are ones that are so full of it that they use it to sustain and drive communities forward. And most importantly, the whore is the one who sustains that light. So again, like we said, we had the temple of Het-Heru, or Hewet-Heru, and Hewet or Het means house, right? So if you have Heru, you have light or heaven. Het-Heru or Hewet-Heru would mean the house of light, later called Hathor, by the Greeks. But even though there's some who complain about that, it's not that far off, even when they change the name, because or still means light. So Hathor would still be the house of light, So the whores are the ones who they find a person, a man who is wise, is full of light, is full of knowledge, and who has a plan and who's free and says, you know what? I want to do everything in my talents to make sure that I uphold and house your light. And our talents, like these are our talents, our fingers, our toes, our ears. Talents are not like I can rap and sing in just one song. It's not so much that, or dancing. Your talent is actually your appendages. So she takes all of her appendages and says, it's yours. And I'm going to use all of this to keep what you're doing in your mission sustained and driving forward. So heaven is here. Heaven is now. When you achieve that mating and that interlocking, you achieve that right now in this moment. It's not a far off place. So the real whores really go to heaven because the real whores house heaven.
Oh, wow. This is quite interesting. So there's obviously a misguidance or a misdirection with regards to how we interpret what a whore or a hoe is these days, because what you just explained there is almost as if the example is as if this woman is divine. She's not out just misguided, so to speak, because when you explain this, I see the opposite of pimp and his whores.
Right.
You know what I mean? But there's no instruction there. There's no protection there. There's no love. How did you come up with this? Were you divinely inspired? How did you figure this out? How did you crack the code to this?
Well, let me first start before I answer that with something you just said. I want to kind of revisit. When we talk about pimps, which is really the next documentary, there's misconceptions there.
Okay.
So when we say like a pimp's and his whores and there's no love, that's not necessarily true. That's TV.
Come on now, because we're gonna go into polygamy this Sunday. But no, I kind of have a feeling, you know what I mean, where you're gonna direct that, which I totally get. And
it's the same thing. We have a misconception of whores, so why isn't it feasible that we could have a misconception of pimps?
I agree.
A lot of times we're driven away from certain ideas and thoughts, and understand that all of our original divine and sacred ideas have become profane. You
Mm.
know, the word bitch, for instance, is considered now a curse, but it's not a curse. It's you're representing Isis or Set, the queen of the dog star. You know, and there was a priesthood in Phoenicia, the priesthood of the bitch, and the highest that you can go in that order was to be the great black bitch.
Mm.
But now, of course, that's something we shouldn't say. The word shit, which originally, is comes from soot, which was also gut, which was also God. So shit was one of the oldest words that we have for God, and it represents carbon, pure carbon, soot, right?
Wow.
But we shouldn't say it anymore. So it's the same thing with the pimpery. Of course, you have dirty pimping, but you have dirty hoeing, and there's a stark difference between um, a manipulator and an abuser and a user and a pimp, just like there's a stark difference between a slut and a manipulator and a prostitute and a whore.
Mm.
But in order to keep us away from what may work, because again, if you look at a pimp, this is again someone who has a plan, someone who has an idea, someone who has direction, someone like you asked earlier, where'd you get that sense of confidence? I was born with it. Certain people are born with the sense of, I got this. And that's dangerous for this society. It's very dangerous. And then on top of that, this individual he's full of light, and women, you know, want to serve him as a result. And he's not strung out on emotions and sex. He gets with the woman and says, you know what, you want to be with me? Let's go build something together. That's dangerous. So when we're talking about real pimping, not, where's my money, and yeah, woo, 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 I'll crack her head open, and all. That's TV. That's DVDs and stuff that guys say just to impress other guys. But reality, real pimping looks nothing like that.
This is
Um,
interesting. Just quick
Good.
before you go a little bit deeper into like how you came to wanting to push this idea, because this is the thing. I lost a couple of followers on Instagram just posting that little bit,
I'm
and I
sure.
thought it was hilarious. I'm like, skedaddle on anyway, but see, I observe things like that. Like, how would people feel about this? But they look at it, you know what I mean, as far as the surfaces. They don't attempt to want to dive deeper. And as you explained this, I'm being educated here. How about you guys in the chat room? How you feeling over there? Because I see them just going and going. Yeah, they're vibing off of this. This is really interesting. Okay, so continue on. I forgot what question I asked you.
You asked what inspired me to want to.
To want to do this documentary and title it that way, knowing that people weren't going to understand it right off.
Yeah. Well, again, like I say, I never want to lock down my ceiling of awareness based on my desire to be accepted
Mhm.
or to be comfortable, because the reality is I'm a man, I'm all man, I've always been all man. I was a manly little boy. So within this society, when you stand up to be a man, it's a declaration of war.
Mhm.
So, I've already been warred against just because I stood up and said, I'm going to be a melanoid man, and I'm going to be the strength and the redemption of my people. When I did that as a teenager, everything was against me. So I'm used to that. No big deal. Now, in terms of this subject matter, it may not be for everyone. We have cadres and hordes of young girls out here who are being shuffled into a certain lifestyle that they don't necessarily represent, they weren't necessarily born with, and they don't even understand. So a large part of my motivation was kind of just looking at what's going on in the world and looking at the family breakdown and some of the um, the pressure and the stress and the duress that alpha men come under and alpha women come under. How often they're so isolated and don't really know how to find each other, or don't really know why, again, so much of society is against them. Don't really understand the threat that they represent. So working on this documentary, um, I wanted to really address some of the misconceptions about sexual morality, and how a lot of times people will glorify, whole life, oh, a whole life, or you just a whore, this or that, and not understand that they're really stomping on something that's sacred. You may be a slut, You know, if you sleeping around for emotional fulfillment, you're a slut. That's different. You know, because when you get up from the bed, the guy is snickering, and
Mm.
you're feeling like, oh man, that hole that's inside of me, no pun intended, is even wider now. Now I got to find something else to fill it. Whereas when a hoe gets up from her bed, she's snickering, she's counting money, and he's like, huh, did she just sell me a dream? You know, so it's much different. But really, there's a lot of young girls out here who are, like I said, being shuffled into this idea of sexual promiscuity and not realizing that that has nothing to do with hoeing. You know, again, like I said, the best whores don't sleep around for money.
And
You know.
excuse me 1 second. As you're explaining this, I'm just thinking about even my own upbringing and the types of experiences that I went through as a young girl and the friends that I had and the different things that occurred. Um, I feel as though the sexual energy within the young women is misguided. You understand? So here it is, they're looking at, I'm coming up on this dude, you know, but yet they're actually losing a lot of their essence, a lot of their power by thinking that just the sex is it. You understand? Like, I've had people mistake me for a sex energy goddess, and it was so difficult for me to explain this. Yes, of course, I seem to have some type of sexual energy that's really, you know, it's just, I guess maybe because I contain it, right? But because people look at the surface, they can misinterpret exactly what they're feeling or what they're seeing. You understand? So here we have these young girls, they don't know how to hold or contain that energy. So therefore they're out there just, you know what I mean? They don't really know. But to the woman that you just explained, being able to contain it, I guess that's like, she's like the ultimate horror. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
She's like the master horror. I mean,
she becomes a master of it because she doesn't contain it.
oh, what do you mean? Oh, with regards to her mate, right?
Well, no, with she understands her value beyond the sex.
Okay.
So
Yes.
that it's just the same thing with her mate. You know, he sees her and see she understands that really, like you said, some people may look at you on the surface and they feel a luster, they feel a certain energy coming off of your aura, and they begin to now scheme on your energy. They scheme on your ashe and different ways. Now the whore says, I see you trying to take something from me that you think is precious.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more to me that you don't even understand because, again, like I was saying in the feed the other night, the average, not average, but many women, because I do a lot of counseling, I work with clients a lot, and a lot of women I encounter, and I've always seen over the years, don't even give their heart to their mates, you know, because a lot of times their mates aren't deep enough to even see that there's a heart there. You know, I've worked with clients over the years where times where there were marital issues and I prescribed wife swapping. You know, why don't y'all go to a swingers club? And sometimes I do this just to see what the response is. Most of the time, that's what it is. And a lot of times, the man will say like he'll get paralyzed. He'll be terrified. What? No, no.
He's afraid of losing her on how she respond. That's
Yeah, because the thing is, when you start tripping like that and you feel that sense of ownership, that means you haven't valued her beyond her vagina. And that's why she's not really feeling you like that. That's why she's not going to give you this. She's not going to give you her heart because she understands that, you know, there's so much more to her. So like a trick will see someone like you, like you're saying, and say, oh, ooh, I have to have your sex. And the whore will say, all right, but it's not really, I'm not really giving you anything because really you're just masturbating because I'm not connecting and mating with you if I have sex with you because the connection and the mating comes from the brow. It comes from the heart chakra. So I'm really just going to let you rub in me and masturbate and make you think that's me selling you the dream. But the man that I'm with, he gets my mind. He gets my heart,
right.
You know, and it's not even about the vagina, you know, so a whore doesn't necessarily hold it in that sense. She unleashes it, and when need be, can even use her sexuality to weaponize it against any type of obstacle that's in her path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Similar to what you have with belly dancing, you know, where the womb is used to create a vortex. You know, it's a very spiritual thing.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. I have a question for you regarding, well, there's two things. One, let me think. I guess it's more so, hold on. Oh, okay. That was a delay there. I guess it's more so about these women that may have attuned themselves to their higher selves. And I find that I know a lot of them, you know, because I'm one myself. And we've gotten to the point, many of us, where we've accepted that, okay, we've achieved something within our own spiritual walk, our own healing, to the point where we won't desire, you know what I mean? If you're not coming with a certain energy, of a certain understanding or certain healing within yourself, it's a no, especially the women that are in tune with their ancestors. Now, with that, this brings me to something, let's talk about this whole alpha and beta situation, because of course, these are, in my opinion, Greek concepts. But I remember you bringing this up in the first feed, your live feed that I joined in on. You like checked me a little bit, and I was just like, well, you know. So it was basically me sharing, like, wow, like, because you were explaining what an alpha male, like, what makes him, I guess, content or happy, the certain aura about this particular female. And I said, well, what about the alpha females, you know, because I'm a part of that crew. You understand?
Right.
And I was like, I tend to attract beta males. That's not something that I'm proud of, but I noticed that, well, maybe we need that balance. That's why I put it out there. What is this that I attract these beta males? And you were like, that's insanity. And so my little heart was broken a little bit, like, damn, you're right, Chief. You might have a point there. But at the same time, I'm like, two alphas, that's a lot of energy right there. And you said that alpha female should be looking for that alpha male, or should be, you know what I mean, attempting to pursue that balance. So what are your thoughts on that whole issue of alpha, beta? Like, what makes sense during this day and age?
I don't care anything about betas. We can just breed them out at this point.
Whoa, why do you say that? Breed them out?
Yeah, because, you know, we're under attack. You know, we're still on the battlefield as a people. So we need individuals who are going to take the charge. I mean, you take Shaga Zulu as an example of an alpha. It's reported that he slaughtered a lot of brown people. You know, some even say more than British, right? Because his mentality was, listen, I see what's coming down the road. Y'all still dancing and you know, throwing parties. But what's coming down the road is going to require you either to get down with me or lay down. And some got down with him and some didn't. So his war machine moved throughout that region and was just grabbing up. And he wasn't waiting for this moment when everybody would stand up and see what needed to happen. He said, I'm just going to do this and we're going to go forward. So we're in a time like that now where those who are truly alpha, because people shout that a lot. And a lot of times people have a misconception of what an alpha is. They feel like if you're big and strong, or you're buff, or you're tough, you know, or you stand up for what you believe in, that you're an alpha. And that doesn't make you an alpha. In order to understand what an alpha is, you got to understand your environment first. And you have to determine best what your environment needs. And if you can supply that need at its maximum and at its peak, then you become the alpha. Whatever the need is, if we need a bunch of yams and you can produce the most yams on your farm, you become the alpha, you know. So our contextual situation qualifies that. Now, two alphas getting together, is that a lot of energy? Yeah, you know, but what's the problem with that? Why are we afraid of that much energy? Usually it's because we don't have sane mechanisms for interacting with each other. And again, like I said, a lot of times we don't know what an alpha is. Like you saying, you have betas who are attracted to you. They're supposed to be. They're attracted to the light that's inside of you. That's why they're pulling in. That's why they're coming. And they're supposed to do that. They're going to do that. Your job is not to be fooled, not to lower your energy level to make them, because it's like a scale. So let's say if you're vibrating at a 9 and the beta's at a 2, in order for you two to interact, because you know, our auras they're amazing mechanisms in that they always seek to balance out the environment. Very similar to instruments. I play guitar. So like my guitars have to be, I have a room where, you know, it's treated in terms of temperature, because if I put my guitar in a room that is very humid, the wood will then absorb the moisture in the air in my guitar, and it will warp the neck. If I put it in a room that's too dry, it will give away its moisture in order to balance out the room. So we work the same way. So if you're at a 9 and he's at a 2, then what happens is your system will lower yourself, let's say
Ooh,
to a 5.
yeah.
And so that way he can come up to a 5 or 4.5. And now you can interact, but he's feeling great. And every time you interact with him, you're feeling tired and hungry. And I'm hungry. I'm horny now. I'm because you need energy, because they keep bringing you down here. So the trick is to make sure that you're walking amongst deities like yourself. And sometimes we don't, because we have a misconception of how people should mate in this country. You know, if you're an alpha, just like I've told, youth that I've raised, the girls, always find a man that's better than you. If he's not better than you, then it's not a mate. Your mating is not here. Your mating is here, because he has to be able to see. He has to see what's going on. He has to have foresight. And in order to do that, he's got to be a bit more advanced than you. But that's the natural way. It doesn't mean that when I say better, I want you to understand I'm saying it parenthetically. But so it essentially means that he's got to be qualified for leadership by going through and having more experience than maybe she has had, which is what you want, because then it allows her to stay soft while he goes out further into the world, hardening himself, which is cool. Did you have more questions? It looked like
okay, because I have something to share. Because it was once said to me by an elder grandmother that, and you just tell me from a man's perspective how you feel about this, that a woman should, if she were to get married or if she were to commit to a man, that she should find one that loves her more or is more into her than she into him, right? Yeah. She needs to find one that loves her more, that's more into her. You understand? What do you think about that? Because that's something that I've struggled with. And I do believe that I've kind of attracted that, but there's a lack of luster. There's a lack of contentment with that. So I always like steer away from commitments and stuff like that. Because I'm like, if I can't love you wholeheartedly, then I don't want to waste your time. You understand? Because I feel that oftentimes we have that wandering eye because we're not content. You know what I mean? With the mates that we choose. So what do you think about that? Someone saying find somebody who, loves you more, more.
That's whole advice. That's what
I some background, by the way. It was from a grandmother. And they make sure he love you more than you love him.
That's whole advice. In reality, it should really be the opposite, because when you're dealing with male and female relationships, you're dealing with need versus want. And as a man, I've never needed a woman, but I've wanted them. And the women that I interact with tend to need me. And we have that reversed in today's society. That's why we can't seem to stick together. You think about the guys that you may be with that you're talking about. The minute you hear them say something like, I need you, I need you to help me, I need this, it's like, ugh. Yeah. I'm sure you just dry up inside. I'm just guessing. Yeah. And as a man, we don't necessarily want to just be ancillary to a woman's life, where it's like, okay, yeah, I want you. You can come over. We want to feel needed. We want to feel like she needs us. So, and that when that power dynamic, and the thing is, a lot of times when I say that, women get offended when I say I don't need you, I want you, but I know you need me. And I always say, well, think about your desires versus, your necessities. Which one do you tend to kind of draw yourself to more? Do you eat everything you're supposed to eat, or do sometimes you cheat and, have this because you have a desire or want for things? Often you find the pull for your desires and wants is much stronger than the pull for your needs. So there's balance in it in that sense. Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. I've reached a spiritual peak in my life where it kind of saddens me, but I think I did it to myself to protect, and that's to not need anyone. you know, and I just kind of accepted that. Like, I feel at peace with that, but I'm not sure if it's really natural for a woman, unless she's maybe a spiritualist. I considered that too. Well, maybe I'm just destined for a more spiritual life, to not really, like, I don't like, company is nice, but I don't feel that, oh my gosh, there was a time where I felt like that though. I need to find a spouse. I need to balance this out. I was looking for that alpha, you know, but then when I met a few of them, I was like, oh man, they want to try to like stop me from growing. I expand rapidly. You understand? What are your thoughts?
That's why you never met one. I can tell you don't have a man now. You know, I can see it on you. You can see it on you. Yeah.
What do you see?
Just like how women can sniff out other women, men can sniff out other men. I can see that masculine.
You can sniff out other men. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I call myself even covering up, like, God has arrived. She's nice and holy tonight.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, but I see you.
Yeah, I honor my ancestors, spirit guides. Like, to me, that's the man. You don't understand right now.
It's like women who say Jesus is my husband. It's not that.
I know.
I know. Yeah. So you never met an alpha. That's what it is.
Never met an alpha? Oh boy.
You thought you did. See, an alpha, and now, again, remember, it's you think about a lot of relationships between men and women. A lot of times, women are most attracted to the man who shows them the least attention, because he's so committed to his mission that he doesn't have time to lock her down. You know, he's saying, listen, I'm going over here. If you want to rock with me, come over here with me. If not, then it is what it is. Right. And because he has momentum and movement, and sometimes this gets perverted. Sometimes this turns into a woman wanting to be with a quote unquote bad boy, because he's aggressively addicted and committed to ignorance. And no matter what you say to him, he's like, I'm gonna do what I want to do regardless. And there's something, in a perverse way, there's something appealing like about that, because at least he's directed. So a real alpha will see you, will only look to improve you and upgrade you, and whatever you are, make more of it, you know, because ultimately it furnishes his kingdom. So if I meet a woman and she has certain talents and certain abilities, I'm not going to necessarily suppress that, because I'm building a large kingdom. The larger the woman, the larger I get to be. You know, a lot of times you have certain women, like I've said before, there's different size moons. You know, different planets have different moons. And sometimes you have a woman that's a huge moon, and she's trying to interact with a tiny sun. So that sun doesn't have enough light to reflect on her. So she gets a little pinhole of light on her surface. But what it is that she's got to just look for a larger sun, you know, and so she go, oh, okay, there we go. I knew I had some spots over here and over there that I never saw before, because I never interacted with something large enough to shine that much light on me. So honestly, a real alpha, like I said, a lot of times people are imposturing themselves. You have a lot of children imposturing themselves as adult boys and adult, you know, or adult men and women, but they're adult boys and adult girls, but they look the same. They feel the same, everything, you know. So when you're with a true alpha, you don't have that sense of oppression. You really have a sense like, man, I got to catch up. You know, like, man, he's moving. You know, like I got a jog just to catch up and he won't even slow down to help me get on board the boat that he's on. Like, I have to build up to him. You know, that's really a pen pal relationship.
It sounds a bit competitive, though. No.
No. Women are no competition. How could we compete, and we work in two different polarities?
But what about emotional fulfillment?
What about it?
That's necessary too. I mean, with achieving goals and stuff like that. I mean,
okay. So how are you emotionally fulfilled?
Say that one more time.
How are you emotionally fulfilled?
Attention.
Right. Exactly. Well, attention doesn't emotionally fulfill you. Attention is what you need to survive as a woman, because as a feminine energy, you live in negative. The masculine is positive, is light. The feminine is negative, is dark. So that light is attention. You know, it's just like you, when you're dealing with someone who's a lesser vibration and you have light inside of you and you pay them attention, whatever kind of attention it is, you know, whether it's negative or positive, you bring life to them, especially if they're a soulless being. So anything that has lesser light, any attention you give to is going to raise it up. So if I have more light than you as a man, if I'm more inspired, as I should, and you're living in that world of the void. The man lives in the infinite, as he should. Now, all of this I'm saying in ideal situations.
Okay.
He's in the infinite and she's in the void. So she goes this way, he goes that way. But all of her movement, like you say, emotion is just energy in motion. But she's dealing with the water, the abysmal waters that are still. So how do the waters agitate and move? They need two things. They need light, they need air. Light and air are both masculine principles. So when the man comes, he agitates the water, and now the water's moving. So she needs that attention in order to survive, right? So attention is what I'm giving you right now. I'm talking to you, I'm teaching you things, right? There you go. There's your attention. And now you can take what you're getting, that knowledge, and you can turn it into an emotion, which is energy in motion.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because then she's going to be like, yay. And then she goes about her business. Right.
Yeah, that's something you work
I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Everyone, he gave me my juices. Let me go do this. I get it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. You should see these comments. Okay. Because
I gotta look over there.
I'm going to go ahead and open the line. Are you okay with that? Because I'm pretty sure many want to actually ask some questions and speak with you for a minute. Okay. Do you have anything else that you want to share regarding your documentary before we get into that? Because I know that you're looking for support with regards to it. Well, can you share a little bit regarding that? Yeah,
we have a Kickstarter. Of course, again, the title of the documentary is All Whores Go to Heaven. And actually, there's two things I want to share. If it's not a problem. All Whores Go to Heaven is what we're working on. We're looking on a summer release now. And of course, the Kickstarter just helps with like some of the travel expenses for interviews. Also going over to the continent, because we're going to be going into some of the shrines and temples, and really showing that ancient aspect of the whore and of Heteru and Pampagira and different energies like that. So definitely anything you can contribute to the Kickstarter would be awesome, to make sure it happens. And of course, there's awards associated with it. Another thing I just want to mention really quickly, it's a bit divergent, but I'm also, as a part of my ministry, I do a lot of philanthropic work. And right now I'm running a feminine hygiene drive for homeless women in the New York City area. So it's called Red Wrap. All right. So if anybody wants more information on that, we're doing a distribution event at the end of this month at 2 shelters in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And you can just go to Our New Life Global, which is ANULIFEGLOBAL.org/Red Wrap, which is REDWRAP. And you can get more information on it. You could just go to the GoFundMe if you like, GoFundMe.com/Red Wrap if you just want to give a money.
Okay, you guys be sure to look in the description link. It says ournewlifeglobal.org. When you look at this particular campaign, just be sure to put /Red Wrap, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll update that once the live stream is over.
Okay, thank you.
Something else?
No, we can go to questions if you like.
Okay, just real quick. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna open up the lines. Feel free to call in if you have something to share. The number is right here in the description link. It'll only be up for the remainder of this live session. Okay. While we're waiting, okay, they're sending messages on Instagram. Be sure to send your correspondence right here on this live feed. Hold on one second. Welcome, Healthy Living. Hi. Oh, you guys feeling it, huh? They feeling you.
Good.
Yeah, they're feeling this. And me too. I'm so appreciative of, let me make sure this line is on. Yeah, we're good.
My honor.
Yeah, you guys feel free to call in. The number is right here in the description link. If you don't have that, it's 661. Should I? Hold on. Let me go ahead and just write it in. This is a temporary number.
I'll give you a little cover. While she's doing that, writing in her piece, I just want to address again the piece about the priesthood. I've been a minister. I was a minister way before I was initiated in any system. To minister just means to serve. So I've been serving. I was always the guy when somebody was getting beat up by a bully. I was always the kid that got called. and would step in because I always been kind of husky. So I was that husky boy who always was in the back running, you know, when all the children were running, when a dog was coming, and was always the husky one in the back, doughboy. That was always me. Wait up, y'all, wait up. So don't leave me. So, you know, that sense of service has always been there. You don't need to be initiated in any system to use whatever talents you have right now to help out. And it could be a feminine hygiene drive. I didn't have to be a Babalao to reach out to those shelters and put up my bread and say, hey, how many women you got? We got 300 women. We got 400 women. Okay, let's get them some supplies, because that's something, you know, when you just imagine a lot of you sisters listening who have homes, how sometimes the embarrassment sets in when your period comes early or whatever, and you weren't expecting. It's like, oh my goodness, because I've been around women like, I'm early. Imagine going through that experience, but being displaced at the same time, not having a home and having to take newspaper or socks, because a lot of times that's what they use. They use socks and newspapers and wrap them up and put them there, you know.
Right.
So that was something, you know, I've been working on for a while, because it's just, you know, that can't fly. Homelessness is bad enough as it is, but when you have certain things like that that are very sacred and are very spiritual, and a person is going through an experience like that, you got to do something.
Wow.
You know, so you don't have to be initiated to do that, man. You know, just get in where you fit in, and you know, start helping. Yeah.
Wow, that's remarkable. You do have a call. We have a couple of people. Okay, hold on one second. All right. So we have a call. Please, what is your name and where are you calling from? Hold on one second. What's your name? Hold on one second. Can you mute your sound from what you're watching?
No, okay. My dear.
All right, cool. Welcome, sis. How you doing?
All right, baby. I'm so proud of you, Mama. God bless you. You're doing so good.
Blessings to you. Thank you. How are you today? Are you enjoying the live feed?
I'll be right there.
You're so sweet. How are you enjoying Chief Yuya this evening?
Well, I'm so excited. This is wonderful. Everybody in the chat room is enjoying it. And I think it's a great interview. Just they want them every week now.
So what's happening this evening?
Nothing much. Just hanging out with you here.
Okay. So you just called in? Okay. All right. You don't have any questions for the chief?
No, I'm just ready for him to go into talking about the Yoruba part. You know, that I'm hyped about and a lot of people are. And I just wanted to give him our blessings and welcome him. And thank you for all that you're doing for all of us as well.
And sister, your title is?
I'm a high priestess. I have about that background over 25 years.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So she's looking forward to your documentary. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, sis, for calling in. Okay.
Thank you very much. We love you.
Blessings. Love you. Okay. Someone else was calling in. Go ahead. Go ahead and call him if you have any questions or you have something that you'd like to share with the chief while he's here. He's a very busy man. Please feel free to call in right now. Oh, she's calling in again. Hello? You good? Hello? She probably called me. All right. Thank you to everybody that passes through and watches this video, watches this live stream. Please feel free to support the brother with regards to the upcoming documentary. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be quite informative. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll definitely be supporting. By all means, you do the same if you will, okay? Because I know a lot of you be looking for causes, and this is beautiful, especially with regards to the red wrap. We have another caller.
Okay.
Hey, where are you excuse me. Hello, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Monique calling from Houston, Texas.
Welcome, Monique. Welcome. How can we help you this evening?
Thank you. I have a question for Yuya.
Okay, Chief, she has a question for you. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear.
Go ahead, sis.
There are times when some women that I've known, and even myself personally, who have been so emotionally upset and disturbed through different experiences with men that there may be an attraction or some type of energetic thing that happens between two women that may not necessarily be lesbian, but I guess for the healing aspect of it, can you shed some light on homosexuality when it comes to the female and the healing aspect of the mother or the female energy?
Okay, I think if I hearing everything correctly, you're asking about situations where you have two women or multiple women who are attracted to one another, and you said there's a healing component. You're trying to heal from that attraction, or heal from what? What are you healing from?
Healing from past hurt, pain, trauma.
Okay, the pain and trauma that's caused by the attraction?
No, caused by relationships with the opposite sex.
Okay, well, the two have nothing to do with one another. If you're experiencing pain and trauma, one of the things that you just said that it gives a sharp clue. You said you're trying to heal from pain and trauma caused by past relationships with the opposite sex. The pain and trauma that you're feeling is caused by yourself. So it has nothing to do with the relationship or the opposite sex. It has to do with how you're holding on to your lesson. So that happens internally first with some serious mirror therapy. That's where you have to start. As far as the attraction, of course, we live in a time where there's going to be a lot of that type of attraction because, again, when you have masculinity that's distorted and femininity that's distorted and devalued, then it makes it very easy to kind of overlook it. Like you even look at some of the things, we could look at transhumanism, for example. We look at the whole now movement with sex dolls. And yeah, based on how women have allowed themselves to be devalued and allowed themselves to be discounted over the years, it has come down to where the value only really is just, okay, a hole to put something in, a tool for orgasm. So that can be represented anyway. And that's systematic, so one of the things when you're dealing with those attraction, same-sex attractions, first you have to be able to distinguish your own self-shape first, because that's where a lot of that confusion comes in. And when I say self-shape, what I mean is this: as a woman, understand that what you're going to be attracted to usually in a natural sense is going to be your natural complement. But you don't know your natural complement if you don't know what your shape is. So look at it like if you were a puzzle piece. If you're a puzzle piece and you're shaped a certain way, then there's another piece that mates perfectly into you. But if you're a puzzle piece and you're shaped like this, but you think you're shaped like a circle, then you'll never find your mate. And if you get two broken toys or two wounded animals together or two broken people, they're going to huddle together and their pain is going to be their bond, which is only going to exasperate or magnify in amplitude what that original pain was. So it all begins with some mirror therapy, some accountability. When you can look in the mirror and say, okay, what are not only the choices that I've made that led me to this moment, but what is it in my character that produced this type of karma? That's the first thing. A lot of times you'll find that women will cling to each other because sisterhood is beautiful. I'm a big advocate of sisterhood. I'm one who practices plurality. And the biggest draw with plurality to me is seeing women, interact and coordinate and cooperate together. So that's a natural and beautiful thing. But one of the reasons why a lot of times women will pull and connect to each other beyond what's healthy is because women tend to never check each other. They don't hold each other accountable for anything. So when you go through a relationship, sometimes your first thing is to look outside yourself and say, he hurt me. And then another woman will say, yeah, he hurt you. But no one will say, well, maybe you're just a nasty person and he got tired of your nasty mouth. We'll never say that. That motorcycle was right on time.
Truth serum. Truth serum. I see some agreeing in the chat room. Like, you got a point there. Because I'm thinking back on myself. Yeah, I did co-sign. A lot of situations. Like, girl, please let's move forward, girl. We got this.
Yeah, water going into water, and there's no boundary. See, you need those boundaries to say, wait a minute. It's a hard protocol that when that water smashes against and she's trying to, those emotions are spilling over to say, wait a minute, hold on. I know you're crying and everything like this, but you caused this. And we you know, a lot of that is really just a lot of Willie Lynchism. It's perfectly fine for us always to perceive that the black man has done something terrible and heinous to the world, because we get that in every movie. You know, when I was a child, every movie was the black guy did it. You know, no matter what was going on, the black guy did it. And even now, you know, if I'm in a situation and something is missing, even me, as I'm a grown old man, and I'm like, oh God, I know they're gonna blame me. I know I wasn't even anywhere near. I'm gonna get the blame. You know, so we kind of perpetuate that, and we never look at, well, we both have masculine and feminine inside of us, and we both have the potential to have low character, to have character defects, and to cause and to create causes that generate unpleasant karma. You know, so that's what really needs to be looked at first. As far as the same sex attraction, and when it comes in that type of form, you're always going to get that when you don't hold yourself accountable. You're always going to get that. And when you don't really seek out your medicine, when you're a woman going through trauma and you need to be pulled out of it, your medicine is the same man. You can't get around it. And it's the same thing for a man. When you're a man not sure of your purpose and wandering, you know, like my man Simba and the Lion King, it was Nyla who came and rescued him and said, come on, man, you know, enough is enough. So, you know, we are each other's medicine. And of course, we live in a society that drives us away from one another.
Mm. Sis, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you for calling in. Hey, I have something that I would like to add with regards to the whole medicine thing, which I think has helped me tremendously once I came in contact with it. And that was through traditional spirituality. And I'm pretty sure, you know, you can definitely add to this. And I want you to, because I really don't know you that well. I don't know like your background with regards to traditional medicine. But one thing I will say is that being bathed in certain herbs actually helped me to rewire my thinking pertaining to a whole lot of everything. How I viewed the world, how I viewed all kinds of things that I had hangups on with regards to relationships, with regards to how I viewed my parents, my upbringing, how I view myself. And you know what I'm talking about, right? When it comes to herbs and all that stuff, how would you say that, or would you recommend that being something that many can seek out to help them? Because sometimes maybe they're not healed enough to just enter into a relationship and depend on another person to bring about that healing, especially if they're not spiritually on the level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you sell spiritual baths?
No.
Okay. All right. So I got to make sure before I answer.
I can. Oh, okay.
I'm going to answer freely.
No, I have
Okay.
ways to help though. I'm waiting until I get to Africa.
I got you. So I would say no to some degree. And the reason why I'm saying no is because whatever mentality you bring into your ritual, the ritual only amplifies and magnifies that mentality. So if you come into a ritual with low vibration, then you magnify low vibration. A lot of times we're looking for things external to us like that. And I give spiritual baths. I'm sure some of my students may be listening, people who I've initiated into Orisha and give spiritual baths and rituals and things like that. But what my students will tell you, well, just by the very thing that I'm calling them, students, I don't have godchildren. I could, but I teach, I educate. It's education that brings you out of your situation. Now, when you're taking the baths and you're connecting with the vibrations and certain herbs and things like that, your knowledge and your ability to open yourself up to them is what makes it stronger, but it's only affecting your auric body. So when your auric body is cleansed, like you were probably in a situation where mentally you were already pushing for that change and there was some blockages in your aura. So when you took that spiritual bath, now I'm attracting whatever kind of bath it was. It could have been an Oshun bath or an Oya bath or whatever, you know, a Yemonja, and you're attracting. What's that, sis?
I was saying that it was actually many baths that I took, many,
okay,
and they all had a different purpose.
Right. So you're systematically chipping away at the corrosion around your aura.
Dang, okay.
But here, this already came online. You were already ready. So you have to deal with that first, or if not, you're just making a bunch of tea and bathing in it. So that connecting with the mental piece and the character. In our tradition, the Yoruba tradition, we say that character is all that is requisite, because it's true. It's your character that begins to shape your thoughts, and your thoughts shape your destiny. Just like it's your spoken words that shape your fate. The word fate means to speak. So you speak your fate into being, and you think your destiny into being. So you can take baths, and of course, for the moment, you're going to get that charge. You're going to feel that chi raise up and that ashe raise up. But in order to sustain it, you have to be able to generate your own ashe. And that comes through connecting with the deeper elements of the baths and the energies. So each time you were taking a bath, like you said, I took many baths. So each time you did that, your faith or your acknowledgement of the unseen was increased. It's just like if I gave you one bath, and let's say that one bath had 10 ingredients. And I said, okay, well, for this one ingredient, you got to go to Bali. You can't go anywhere else but Bali to get this ingredient. Other one, you got to get in Australia. Then the other one, you got to get in Nigeria. Then the other one, you got to get in. And I'm taking you all over the world. Now, each time you take a trip to go get another ingredient, your faith is increasing, because you're like, wow, I'm really inputting myself into my own healing process. So now you're developing a different relationship with not only the herbs, but the entire process. And what you don't know is that from the moment you booked your ticket, the bath began. You see, because in the spiritual world, there's no concept of time. So when those spirits enact it, we're the ones who are weighed down by gravity. So therefore, we're weighed down by time. But the moment you booked your ticket and said, this better work, because he's sending me all over here. I don't even have the money right now, but I'm going to do it. It already started. The healing started. You see, so I would say you have to learn to deal with this first, and then this will direct the emotions. Emotions are the byproduct of thought. So once you can direct this and you can maintain this, then your words will change. When your words change, your fate will change. You see, when your emotions change, what's sent out from your auric body changes. So that means the law of attraction changes. So it's okay. Yeah.
I've done some things for some people, just low scale, because I'm not initiated. I don't think that's in the cards for me at this time. But, when I share with my friends or what have you, and I'll just be like, okay, do this. For some, amplified, boom, results. And then for others, they're just like, well, and I'm like, what makes it so different and diverse like that pertaining to the healing for each individual? But I think you just nailed it right there. It's just a matter of how a person feels about that experience from the moment they get the instructions to them achieving it, whatever, you know what I mean, how they feel about it. If you don't have a connection with it, or maybe if you do not believe, or whatever the case may be, it can weaken the energy.
Sometimes people bring you bad intel too.
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes what people are telling you is the issue is not really the issue.
Oh, okay.
You see, so I get a lot of clients that come to me. This one, oh, can you give me something? My boss is harassing me, and I want you just to give me something to make him go away. And I may ask, okay, well, what do you mean harassing? What is he doing? And where do you work? Do you want to work there? No, I don't want to work there anymore. But while I'm there, I don't want to be bothered. Well, how long have you not wanted to work there? Oh, 4 or 5 years. Okay, so you stayed there beyond your season for being there, and the walls of support have now left you. So the spiritual energies that would have supported you in that place are no longer there, because they're like, we've been told you to leave. So now you're here on your own. You got to navigate this now through instinct and not through spiritual guidance. So the answer is not for me to put roots on your boss. The answer is for us now to petition other energy so you can get out of there. So a lot of times and sometimes people will get frustrated because they may not have the respect for you as a spiritualist. So if you say, well, listen, I don't really think that's the issue. This is what I see. They'll say, well, no, I didn't come here for all of that. I just came, I want this. And well, that's not really going to be the answer for you. So sometimes it's the bad intel.
And usually I recommend a reading, which will actually, you're also a diviner as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll usually, before I say, well, please, may I like observe your situation and let's do a reading first, because I don't want to, I feel that that's the best way to actually see what's happening here. Can you share more about your divining and how you help those to be able to see what's going on in their lives?
Yeah, well, as a Babalawo, excuse me.
No problem.
I'm sneezing. I didn't want to sneeze on the camera.
Oh, you
It
did.
looked like raindrops. Wait a minute, nasty. Talking about holes and it's all over the place. So, yeah, I do, of course, the Ifa readings. Reading the Odu. So the way that works is, just to give everyone a quick little Ifa lesson. When we say Odu, anytime you see in the Yoruba language, you see the word or the letter O, is dealing with the exaltation of, or knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of, or spirit of. So like you have, like, say, Oshun, Ogun, Orangan, Osumare, Oludumare. You notice you always have all these O's, right? So the actual root word is what comes after the O. So for instance, like Ogun, it's really Gun or Gungun. And Gun means herbs or vitality. So Ogun is the spirit of herbs and vitality. Or we have Su or Osu. Osu is the moon. Su relates itself to the menstrual cycle. So when we have Oshun, or Osun is that red powder that we use, but also we have the deity Oshun, which is the rivers of water, rivers of blood, right? So we have Odu that we read, right? And Du means black or dark or womb or mystery. Okay, so Odu is the spirit or the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the mystery. And at any given moment, we're like right now, we're in the womb of outer space. We're always in the womb, always. You're in the womb of the planet. When you came into the world, you came out of your mother's womb, and it was a certain characteristic that is characteristic of that womb. That's why when the sperm gets in there, she mangles it and imprints her character on it, and then it goes out. So when we're reading Ifa, we read Odu or Olodu Ifa. And the Olodu Ifa is, again, the spirit of the mystery. So we want to understand what cove or what womb is this person currently in. And once we understand the womb that you're in, then we understand the characteristics of your environment, the unseen characteristics of your environment. So we may say, oh, you're in this type of womb. Okay, so based on that, if you want to achieve fortune in this womb, or get out of this situation, these are the energies that you want to interact with, or those are the energies that you want to interact with. Or you're getting ready to go into this womb, or you're coming out of that womb, because you're always in a womb, coming out of one, going in one. You can't avoid it. That's just our reality here. So when I do reading, I'm determining what womb, that person is in, or what Odu is currently influencing their life that they're inside of, what energies are in there with them. You may be in the womb where you have Igba Odu in there, which is the spirit of the calabash. You may be in one where you have, again, Oya in there, or Ochosi is in there, or Batala is in there. And these are the energies that you need to become in order to achieve the greatest fortune in that space. Not beg, not pray to, but become. Because these are energies that are faculties inside of you. These are your own nature. So, okay, I need to be, like right now, we're on this call. I don't really talk much, but when I get, when I decide, okay, I'm going to do an interview, someone asks, now I have to pull something else out of me and become something else. I might pull a little Shango where I'm speaking, or a little Yemoja where I'm being more nurturing, whatever it is. And so whatever environment that I'm in, I have to pull that womb out. I have to pull that energy out. So if we're doing readings, we're determining how best we should purport ourselves in a given environment. If any of those energies need to be fed, so they have the strength to be all they need to be in our existence right now, and maybe what we need to pull back from, things like that. So it gives you a total view of your situation and how to move on to your next step, if you will.
Okay, we're going to take one more call. I know you're quite busy. Hold on one second. But I dropped her call accidentally. Hold on one second. Okay. All right, sis. You have something you want to share? If you can mute your sound with the video feed. Can you mute the audio? I can hear myself. Okay, cool.
Hi, Chief. I just wanted to say, I don't want you to think that I was being very disrespectful.
I know. It's fine.
I hope so. Much love and blessings to you and Ibiri Boya.
Ah, Kaleo, sister.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Chief, do you have anything else you would like to share? Because I know you have a quite busy schedule, you know, and I don't want to hold up too much of your time, but this has been really amazing in such a small amount of time. Do you have something you'd like to share before we head on out?
I'm going to share one thing, two things maybe, but one.
Okay, do it, please.
I noticed in the chat, I just pulled it up,
Awesome.
and someone who said something about she is all about love, relationships, and childbirth. I guess this is Edwin Letty, and Osayin is over green plants. I would just share with that person and anyone else that don't try to limit Orisha like that, because they're evolving as you're evolving. You know, keep in mind the name Orisha. You hold Ori. Ori means head. Sa means selected or consciousness. So the Orisha are selected consciousness. But who's selecting the consciousness? Just like if I say I'm gonna wear this shirt today, or I'm gonna wear this shirt today, you know, who's selecting the shirt? I'm selecting the shirt. You see, so I'm the one who's in control. So even when you're dealing with the Orisha, those are faculties of you that are employed by you. So if we say, well, Oshun is all about love, maybe your Oshun is, maybe my Oshun is all about dark matter, because dark matter is connection. You know, it's the thing that holds all the things in the universe together. So as we evolve our understanding, as we evolve our awareness, those energies that are in our employ, they evolve with us. You don't want to lock yourself down into what you perceive to be an ancient understanding of something, because just because it's old doesn't mean it's one, still relevant, and two, the way to go, and three, you don't know when ancient began. You don't know if it's 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, you know, whatever. We can go on. When did ancient begin? At some point, you got to realize that all of these traditions and understandings are evolving. So just like the spirit and the energy of the whore, it didn't go away when, you know, people stopped worshiping in the temples of Het Heru. It evolved into something else. And we're an evolving, transforming work. That's why you came to the planet. If you didn't want to evolve, you never would have taken on a human body. You would have stayed in the ethers, where everything is static and pretty much dead. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with that individual and anyone else who may kind of try to localize spiritual energy like that. It's a grand mistake. You never want to do that. You never want to localize it in that way.
Chief, you are special. You are important. Thank you so much for visiting with this channel. You dropped so many seeds. I'm like looking at all these comments, and this is the type of stuff that we like. And, you know, I really appreciate you gracing my channel with your energy. You know, just thank you. Thank you very much. And if you guys are interested in learning more, please check out the description link below. I have to update some links so that you can chime in to all of the different things that he has going on so that you can support. This is someone you definitely want to support. I just immediately connected with the content that he was pushing. It's like I saw through it, like I saw exactly what the message was. And if, especially someone who was kind of like, they was kind of off and really didn't understand what he meant by the whole horde thing, you have to listen with your entire body, people. Okay, your essence. All right. He explained exactly what he meant. All right, so just stick around. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, YouTube Enlightenment Transformation TV. Okay, all of the information will be in the description link. I appreciate you so much for tuning in. Thank you, everyone. Peace and blessings to you all. Once again, thank you, Chief.
Thank you for having me, sis. I appreciate it. And thank you for everyone in the chat, all your supporters who have given me such a gracious bed to lay on to experience this with you all. Thank you.
Absolutely.
When I say horror, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? with one who's been able to own their sexuality, and not only own it, but go so far as to monetize it. So the whore was always a priestess in ancient times, an alpha woman. She doesn't navigate and negotiate her life via her emotions.